Hi, I'm Jason from Crop King, and today I'm going to show you how to add dry nutrients to your NFT desktop system. Now, in order to do this properly, we need some measurements. Our first measurements are going to be our EC, which is electrical conductivity, and pH, which is our potential hydrogen. So in order to do that, we're going to need some sort of a metering system that will allow us to collect that data. So the one that we recommend is the Blue Lab Combo Meter. It's very, very precise. It's to industry standards in terms of what we expect from a unit, and it's also something that we sell right here at Crop King. However, we understand that $250 can be a big ask for teachers. So we did trial a few on Amazon that range from anywhere from $10 to $15. They're not nearly as accurate as our Blue Lab system here, but they are a good way to start if you're just trying to operate on a budget. So before we get into adding nutrients, we actually want to see what the EC of our water is. So we're going to take our source water here. We're going to take our EC probe and we're going to put that into our source water, and we're going to take a nutrient reading. We want to give this a few minutes to adjust to the temperature of the water and get an accurate reading. Once we're comfortable with what that reading is, we can then proceed. So looking at our Blue Lab meter here, it looks like our EC is at about a 0.7. So we're going to take that into account when we're adding nutrients, because we might need to adjust up or down depending on what our final EC is once we add nutrients to our reservoir. So to begin, we want to start with the nutrients that are available to us. So first we're going to start with Hydro-Gro Leafy. Hydro-Gro Leafy is going to be added at 3/4 teaspoon per mixing solution. So what I would recommend that you do is take a Sharpie or magic marker, write 3/4 teaspoon directly on the bag, because if you're working with students, it's often easy to get confused as to which bag goes to what. So if you write 3/4 teaspoon right on there, hopefully your kids will know to only add 3/4 teaspoon when we're mixing. The second nutrient pack is calcium nitrate, and we're going to add this at a proportion of 1/2 teaspoon. So again, writing it on there clearly in Sharpie is going to make it easier for your kids to figure out exactly what it is they're going to be adding to the nutrient solution. A few other things that you might find useful when you're doing nutrient mixing for your desktop system would be a 1-gallon jug. So this could be a milk jug. It could be something that you have at home that you just empty out and bring in. Obviously, you want a measuring spoon with a 1/4 teaspoon measurement unit. Something to mix with. It doesn't have to be the official Crop King mixing stick, but something to mix with. And then, of course, some pitchers to measure out the appropriate amount of water. So we're going to talk about 2 ways that we can mix these nutrients that both work just fine. However, we've got one that we prefer, and that's going to be the jug mixture solution. So in this case, you're going to take your gallon of water and you're going to add it to your jug. You would then take 3/4 teaspoon of Hydro-Gro Leafy, add it to the jug, 1/2 teaspoon of calcium nitrate, and add that to the jug. Put the top on, give it a really good shake, and then your nutrient solution is ready to go. Ideally, you want to use warm to hot water here. It's going to help dissolve some of those nutrients, and really the order I gave you could probably be done in reverse. It's probably actually best to put the nutrients in first and then add the water. It's going to help with that mixing of the solution. Once that's done, you can set that aside, and I'll show you the next step after that. But first, I want to show you how to mix in the actual reservoir itself, if that's more easy for you. So in that case, we're going to do the same steps. We're going to measure out our nutrients. I'm going to take my Hydro-Gro Leafy here. I'm going to add 3/4 teaspoon. So that would be 3 flat 1/4 teaspoon measurements of Hydro-Gro Leafy. Right into the reservoir it goes. Seal it up so it doesn't spill, and set it aside. Calcium nitrate, this is going to be at 1/2 teaspoon. So 2 flat 1/4 teaspoons. In that will go. And now I'm ready to add my gallon of water. So basically what I'm doing right now is I'm replacing the step that I did in my gallon jug. I'm putting my nutrients and my water in 1 gallon proportion into the reservoir. So if you've already mixed it here, you can disregard this step. But I'm going to take my gallon of water and I'm going to pour it into my reservoir on top of my nutrients that I just added there by hand. Get all that water in there. I'm going to take my mixing stick, and really that can be anything, a paint stirrer or just a piece of wood that you find around the classroom, or you know, whatever you can get your hands on, that's fine. Mix it up really good. Get those nutrients fully dissolved. Now the water is going to be warm to hot in this case. We don't want to necessarily put plants above warm or hot water. It's going to cause them some stress. So we do want to wait for this water to cool down before we actually add plants. So we'll talk about that more here in just a second. So I'm pretty happy now with my nutrient mix. I feel like it's been adequately stirred up. Things look like they're dissolved. I don't see any solids sitting in the bottom of my reservoir anymore, which is really what I'm shooting for, okay? So once that step is done, you're ready to do the final addition of water. So we've set an extra ½ gallon of water off here to the side. I'm going to add that to the reservoir to top things off. Now again, if you did the gallon jug mix, you're going to pour the gallon jug into the reservoir, and then you're going to take the ½ gallon of water and pour that on top. So now, either situation, whether you poured in the reservoir or you did your mixing in the jug, you're going to have a gallon and a half of water. You're going to have 3/4 of a teaspoon of calcium nitrate, of leafy green, and you're going to have 1/2 of a teaspoon of calcium nitrate. So once we're happy with that, I'm going to give it one more real good stir here. Make sure, again, everything is mixed in really well. Ideally, no solids in the bottom. If you do happen to see some solids in the bottom, try to use your stick to maybe break those up a little bit and get that dissolved into the water the best that you can. Sometimes this takes a little bit of time. It may take you a few minutes to get this all dissolved. But once you're happy with that, we're ready to take another EC meter reading. I'm going to grab my Blue Lab here. I'm going to put it into the water and turn it on. And I'm going to let that come up to temperature and give me a new reading on what my EC is here. So what I'm shooting for is a 1.4 to a 1.8. That's what we would consider the ideal range for growing. So hopefully we're going to be somewhere in that neighborhood. And because we started with a fairly high EC, we might be a little bit over. If we end up a little bit over, what we would do in that case is we would add some water to dilute the nutrient solution a little bit. By adding water, you're going to actually bring down your EC. So as I look at my meter here, I am at a 2.1. So I'm actually a little bit high here, a little higher than I'd want to be. So what I would do in that situation is I would take my jug and I would put maybe another 1/4 of a gallon of water in here and add that 1/4 of a gallon to my reservoir and then go ahead and check my EC again. If I've brought it down to the 1.8 or below that I'm looking for in that 1.4 to 1.8 range, then I'm happy. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to my next measurement. However, if it's still high, I can now add more water, and I would begin adding in 1/4 gallon markers just to make sure that you don't overwater. If by chance you do go too much water and you bring your EC down below that 1.4, or if you're already at below 1.4 when you mix initially, you can do another batch of gallon of water. 3/4 leafy green, 1/2 calcium nitrate, shake that up, and then you can pour some of that solution directly into your reservoir to raise your EC again. So that's an acceptable way to do that. So now I want to check my pH, so I'm using my Blue Lab combo meter. I'm going to take my pH probe, I'm going to put that into the water here and take a measurement. And again, my pH here, I want to be somewhere between about a 5.5 and a 6.5. That's going to be ideal nutrient uptake pH for the plants that I'm going to grow in my NFT desktop unit. If I'm a little bit high, I'm going to want to add acid. So Crop King does offer something called pH down, which does lower the pH in your solution. So that'll be in the links below in the video. You can purchase that if you need that. So I'm going to take a look at my pH here, and I am at a 6.7. So I'm slightly high. I'm not too far out of range, but I would want to add a little bit of pH down to this to bring my pH down to a 6.5 or below. So once you have these measurements, you're ready to begin growing. Again, you want to make sure that the water temperature cools down to about room temperature, because you can stress your plants if you add those guys on there while the water is still hot. So you take your top, go ahead and put that on, your NFT channels, populate with your 8 plants, put your light over the top, and you are ready to grow. So thank you so much for watching our video. We're glad you're here growing with us. If you have questions, reach out to us at cropking.com. You can also send us an email or give us a phone call. We have people on staff here that are ready to answer any possible question you could have. Thanks again.